All right, Yama, that's one heck of a finish there. It was important, I think, to get the shutout. And so many times Notre Dame hasn't been able to kind of close that out. By the way, did you see this? Toronto. Yama, did you see this?
Well, oh yeah, I
I got
did.
this just for you, man. I saw
Thanks.
this and I was just like, "You got a Blue Jays?" I just saw this. I
Yeah.
was like, "I got to get this for Yama." So, anyway, it was important, to get that shutout. I think because it's a mentality and great performance by the team today. Can't really complain about anything. I mean, really, other than Steve Angeli must be hurt. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know why he isn't playing. I don't understand why you wouldn't play him there. I would have put him in right after the second or the touchdown after in the second half, the first touchdown after they went up 44-0. I would have put him in. I don't understand why you did that, but that's really the only thing I got to complain about. And boy, there's a lot to be happy about. I mean, it was a tremendous performance, and to see the team do so well and not let up and just continue to play very, very well. Of course, I think the snow played into their hands a little bit because BC was not able to run the football. Notre Dame was, but overall, tremendous performance, and I think it says a lot about the Notre Dame's team and how they wanted to send their seniors out with a nice win and make sure they don't let up. It was sure nice to see Jalen Sneed on those last couple of plays, man. That was nice to see. And there were a lot of guys in there. I mean, there were a lot of guys where I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Nolan Ziegler got in there for a play and made a play. So I really wish we would have saw some of the younger guys play a little bit sooner. But overall, tremendous victory. Just dominant running the football. Everybody knew that that's what Notre Dame was going to do. And this isn't a bad Boston College defense. I wouldn't say they're great by any stretch of the imagination, but they usually play hard. They usually play hard. So a tremendous victory. I mean, I'm just happy, man. I'm just happy. It's fun when you play that way. Go ahead.
You love to see it on Senior Day, right? Where all these guys get a chance to kind of, everybody kind of gets to bask in the glory of it. So many guys got to make a play today. Like, I think it's, when you get to see, Foskey got his moment. Mayer, I know they want to get him in the end zone, but they got him over 2,000 yards for his career, and that's great. And it's technically not a senior, but I mean, he's not staying.
He's
around,
gone.
So,
There's no doubt.
But I just think you look at it the whole way, especially after last week, you want to see the offensive line come and really dictate the game. And they did, and they absolutely did. And I mean, right away, huge hole. Diggs ran great.
He really did, man. He really, and just powerful,
Yeah.
It's been a while since Notre Dame's had two backs who run with such power, but also great balance. They have really good balance because there are a lot of guys who are okay smashing into things, but they can't keep their feet. And both of them do a really good job. And I was really impressed with Diggs today. Never going to be a Blazer. We knew that. He's not going to outrun a lot of people, but he's going to run over people. Impressive performance by him, and I think the O-line. Anyway, go ahead, Jimmy.
And I think I don't know how you can say what can you say about Benjamin Morrison?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. What an impressive, impressive player.
That second pick, you just couldn't play better defense than that. I mean, that was just, you when you draw it up on the board, that's exactly what you want it to look like. And here's a freshman doing that, and I mean, and look, he was going against a pretty good player today. You know what I mean? So, it's easy to get run by in a situation like that. But boy, just tremendous defense on that play. I was just really, really impressed with that.
And I think there was that one third down too, where they isolated Zay Flowers on him, and he was all over him.
Yeah.
And I mean, Zay Flowers is as good as any receiver in the country, really. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of shows where Morrison is at with his confidence level. Like the third pick too, especially because even if he wasn't there to make that pick, which was a great diving play, he was going to make the tackle for a loss.
Absolutely, it was.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, he's just really at an incredibly high level right now. And I mean, you just see how the defense can just like, I mean, obviously BC doesn't have a good offense at all, but just look at what BC had done the previous couple of weeks. And I'm not saying that NC State or Duke had a good defense, but this is what a good defense does. They dominate a bad offense, and that's what they did today.
Yeah. A couple little things kind of concerned me there. I didn't like seeing Foskey rolled up there on that ankle. That's concerning me. And we saw Cam Hart grab that hammy. I didn't like seeing that either. I know he came in after, but then he went out again. Those are two players you cannot lose for USC.
No.
That's a very concerning thing. And you're already down Brandon Joseph and obviously Jason Adamalo will be back because it's concussion protocol, or at least you hope he is. But those two would be bad, very bad. And I don't think that Brandon Joseph is a great guy or a great player by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think he does a good job back there, kind of playing center field and you're going to need somebody like that in this game next week. Somebody who can run. And so I don't know. We'll have to see. But those are kind of two things that concern me a little bit about this game. So, I think we have to give Drew Pyne some credit. Terrible start, but then executed well, threw the ball well, and not the best environment either. So I really think that Drew Pyne deserves some credit in this game. I thought he played well. Your thoughts?
And I think he made some good throws on third down.
Tough
right?
throws,
that was the one
yes.
thing, right? So I mean, obviously, you look at the score; it's 37-0 at halftime, and you're like, oh, obviously Notre Dame blew them out, but they wouldn't have been able to blow them out if they didn't make some of those throws early, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's certainly like some of the game. I think Notre Dame really could have just ran the ball the entire day and just had done nothing else really. But I think you need to make some of those plays, and I think it was big too for Pyne, especially after the last second half of the last game, to kind of get a little bit of confidence back. So I think it was big to have like it wasn't a flashy day, but a bounce back especially after the slow start, I think was big.
Yeah, I see some people commenting in the chat about not playing Angeli, and I agree with you. I really have to wonder if maybe there was something wrong. It just didn't make any sense not to play him. So maybe he was a little bit dinged up. We'll wait until we hear from Marcus Freeman. I'm sure he's going to be asked about that. And before anybody rushes to judgment, let's just wait and see what he has to say. And then if he didn't play Angeli, then I think there's certainly reason to complain, because that was a golden opportunity. I would have put him in on that last drive in the first half. I thought that was a golden opportunity. You're at the 50. Let's see what the guy can do. All right. I realize it's a critical time at that point, and you want to pick up points there. I understand that, but you have a pretty sizable lead as is. Your defense is playing well. The weather is not good, and you've been able to get after the quarterback. I would have loved to see them test what he could do there and see if he could lead them down for that drive on a short field. It would have been fun to watch, but understand why they didn't. But I certainly don't understand not playing him in the fourth quarter for sure. And I would have played him halfway through the third quarter myself. But so we'll see. We'll see.
I think Adrian DeVore. I think that, you know what? I never thought about that, but it might actually be the 4-game thing with Angeli. And then they want to have 2 games just in case, especially if he's the backup. I never thought about that, but he has appeared in a couple games this year, and they probably want to keep the red shirt, right? So that, I think actually that totally makes sense now why they wouldn't have done it just for this, even though, like, situationally in the game,
I disagree with that, because how many opportunities are you going to get to have your especially with this team, how many opportunities? Well, just
if Pyne gets hurt, Pyne gets hurt, they have to play him. Right?
Exactly. So my point being, I understand what people are saying about you don't want to burn a red shirt, but with the transfer portal, none of these guys are going to be around. I think that's a terrible decision, in my personal opinion. he could be gone in 2 years, right? There's no reason. If he's the guy, at least you give him some opportunities, and he throws the ball a little bit and has it. What happens if Pine gets hurt in the first game, or I mean the first series next week, right? And he's thrust into the game. That's entirely possible. Now, could have it helped if he would have been able to do some things in this game? Certainly. So I understand that you want to preserve, but with the portal and the way things are going today, I wouldn't save anybody's. Either they're going to be good or they're not, and that's just the way it is.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I get that way of thinking too. But I also think that they're probably doing it because they don't want to screw Angeli, and Angeli's like they're knowing that so if right there that takes away a year from Angeli if he does transfer, right? So I think they did it all for his benefit. In the long run, in the long term. And I guess that does absolutely make sense to me. I mean, I would have loved to see him in the game. I was expected to see him. I was shocked, actually. I think Mike, even after that first series in the second half, would have been a good place. I know that the weather was horrible, but still, that would have been probably a better spot. And when that didn't happen, I was like, oh, okay. But then now that, I don't know, I could see. We'll see what Marcus says about it.
I'm sure that's probably what they're going to say. And again, I certainly understand that. But and I agree, you want to try and help a guy, that type of thing. But you also got to help your team and look out for your team. If Pine goes down first game or first series next week, and Angeli's in there completely green, everybody's going to be going, "What? We just had an opportunity to play him," and you just never know what's going to happen. And so we'll see. I see both sides of it. I certainly do. So, and I think you make a good point too. I think a lot of fans were sitting there saying, why are we even throwing the ball? We can run all day. But look, you're going to need Drew Pine to be able to throw next week, right? You got to build his confidence. And so that's why I think we saw Pine throwing as much as we did in this game, is because we wanted to do this. This little flip pass that they did to Lorenzo Styles, I mean, that was on purpose too. You want to get him in the game and keep him locked in that, hey, we may need you next week and certainly in the bowl game. So I think it was important for them to get Drew Pine mentally some confidence going into this game, because he's going to have to throw the football and he's going to have to complete some tough passes. And I really liked, as you said, third down, that throw to Colsey on third down, kind of a dangerous throw, but right on, right where it needed to be. And he made probably 3 or 4 of those throws on third down today that were very critical plays and extended drives and allowed them to score. So, again, congratulations to Drew Pine. Everybody's been hard on him, myself included. I know you have. So, when he plays well, he deserves all the credit, and he played well.
Yeah, and, and I see in the comments, too, they're mentioning Blake Grupe, who had not kicked the ball well, basically for the last month, just to get on the board. And, I mean, they didn't all look pretty, but they all went through, right? So I think that was big.
Yeah. What do you think defensively today? What was your overall thoughts defensively, Yama?
Well, I knew BC was going to be screwed because they can't run the ball at all. So I knew they weren't going to be able to run the ball all day, and I knew it was going to be on Moorhead. And I just thought it was because of the weather and everything that went along with it. Like, he had basically, in the previous 2 games, he had 115 dropbacks. So, they just threw the whole game. And I knew that if they did that in this game, it would he wouldn't be able to survive. One thing, they would have got, they got 4 sacks. He dropped back less than 30 times in this game. Right. And I think, I think Notre Dame played really well defensively, even if you look at the big play that they gave up on the sideline there too. That was a great throw. And obviously Flowers, is a great player. And then that back shoulder throw too was another great play. Everything that every first down BC got basically was oh wow, that was a great play.
They had to earn it. Big time earn it. That's
and
funny. That guy comes up just celebrating. I'm like, dude, it's 44-0, man. I don't know what you're doing here, but it's funny. But
I personally feel bad for John McNulty because that's like a bad deal he was handed there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you saw with all the stuff with the offensive line, and then they had a bunch of guys being sick this week too, and they were just going to be overwhelmed no matter what. And I just think they just didn't really have a chance. Like their only chance was if they, got some like special teams and defensive luck, and that even then, I just knew like they're probably, Colorado's probably worse, but Boston College might be the next worst Power 5 team. So that's kind of where they're at right now.
Yeah, he's had a tough draw for sure, especially with all the injuries they had and all that type of stuff. Pops McGee makes a good comment here. Freeman gets his teams better prepared than Kelly. And I would agree. There hasn't been a time really other than the Marshall game where I felt like the team wasn't ready to play and focus. Now, did they keep that focus and play well the entire time? No. But I do think that that's a part of the job of the head coach is to get the team ready to play. And that's usually people expect this big locker room speech before the game. That's not when it's done. It's done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's where you get your team ready to play and dialed in. If you have to wait for some big locker room speech before the game, that you've probably lost already. And that's something that a lot of first-year head coaches don't figure out. And so I think that Freeman's done an outstanding job so far this year to get the team where they're at, Jamie. They have a chance to go out and beat another ranked team and certainly their rival. If they play like they did today, they have a really good chance to win, I think. It's just up to execution, creating some turnovers, and defense making some stops. We know that SC is going to score points. We know that. But if you can hold them to 3, 4 or 5 times, you got a really good chance to win. Because I think Notre Dame will have some success against them as well. Yama, I'm excited to watch this game tonight with USC and UCLA. I think UCLA is very similarly built as far as offensively, although DTR is more of a mobile quarterback. But they're a power running team, and I want to see how SC holds up against UCLA because I think UCLA is probably the best running team in the Pac-12 right now. And Zach Charbonnet is one hell of a player. Boy, would he look good, but in a Notre Dame uniform right now, so he certainly would. So, but I'm excited to see that. What about you?
I think it's going to be a really high score. I don't think anyone's going to stop anyone in that game. I think it's probably going to be like last team who gets the ball wins. It's probably going to be like a turnover. Whoever gets a turnover or something, that's the way it's going to be. I don't see USC's defense has been bad really the whole year. That's the kind of thing that they've and I think early in the year they had a lot of turnover luck that kind of helped them out and made them look maybe even a little bit better, but they're not very good at linebacker. I think they have some guys, some pass rushers, but they aren't like great up front. Like even some of the guys who were like the highly touted guys that they recruited aren't great up front. So I think UCLA will run the ball all over them. And I wonder if UCLA might win the game because they might be able to control the clock.
Yeah.
They might be able to do that if they choose it.
Which is what Notre Dame needs to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely has to.
Every time the Irish
limit the possessions.
Every time the Irish beat USC, it's because they punch them in the mouth. And that's what you got to do. And that's what they'll hopefully do on Saturday. Interesting point here. A big picture. Notre Dame is now plus 118 on the year. On track to beat Kelly's plus 79 and Willingham's plus 73 in their first 3 years. Roughly the same as Weiss's first year, which was plus 146, where he finished 9-3. I think he's talking point differential.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you think about as much as people have complained about Notre Dame's offense, 5 straight games of 35 plus points or more hasn't happened in a long time. And it kind of goes against the narrative of what the heck is this offense, but they do somehow score some points, and I don't know. It would be amazing to see how good this offense could be if they had just a little bit more consistency at quarterback. How
Oh
good they
yeah.
could be, because you're seeing Deion Colsey's emerging. As we've talked all year about Thomas. I mean, he's been tremendous, and of course Mayer's playing well. And if you could somehow, it's funny. We all thought Lorenzo Styles would be the guy this year. If you could somehow get him going, this offense could be pretty interesting to watch. So,
Yeah, I did think too. Like it was just smart to get him touches running the ball. Like
yeah,
that was just the way to kind of get him involved and gain him some confidence, right?
yeah,
And even if he is just that guy,
yeah,
that gadget guy, like he still helps you. He still helps you, right? And
yeah.
I mean, he played running back and played receiver, but he also played running back in high school too. He's got that kind of mentality. So, yeah, I thought that was really smart by Reese today.
Yeah, I do. I do too. So that was nice to see. Um, Gosh, Michigan lucked out. Oh, that was crushing.
I know.
That was just crushing, man. I sat there and I didn't see the game because I was obviously watching Notre Dame, but it sounded like the Big Ten, gifted him that win. Did you read about it afterwards?
I just saw some reaction on Twitter about
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I
There
didn't
was
get
like,
to see
there
it.
was like a phantom pass interference. There was a pick play, all kinds of stuff that went on, all kinds of shenanigans, and that's what we're starting to see. Unfortunately, you're starting to see these referees kind of get in there. I think, and that I hate seeing that. It just is what it is. I don't know. Do you want to say anything about this Phil Dracovic thing? I mean, it's over. Now we can all move on. But I just thought his comments today were just ridiculous. Myself, I mean, dude, you're not even playing in the game. I guarantee he wouldn't have said that if he were playing in the game. He would have not put that out there. I guarantee you. And I don't know. I think that says a lot of people were like, well, they ran him off. They should have never ran him off, and blah blah blah. I think you're seeing now why this happened. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people blamed Kelly. They blamed Chip Long. They blamed Reese a little bit for a lot of this type of stuff. But I think his reaction and what you've seen since then kind of really shows the truth behind the matter. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and you know what? I think maybe after when he first transferred and they were doing the interviews and he was
I
talking
understand it.
about his
Yeah.
experience, I get that, right? I get that. You have the bitter feelings, the microphone's in front of you, and then, but you know what? I mean, that was 3 years ago, man. Like, get over this by now. And when there's random off-season articles where it's obvious that it's on his mind because no one's asking him about Notre Dame in these pieces. Like, what do they care about Notre Dame? Like when they're doing these like preseason puff pieces on him, like being a Heisman contender, right?
Yeah.
And then for today, to do that today,
Yeah.
like like you said, like it's like a gutless thing to do when you're not even playing in the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if he played in the game, he would have got destroyed and would have played terrible. I worse probably than the
Sure.
freshman who played today too. And I just thought that was just like, I mean, I know they're not professional, but it was unprofessional. And it is the kind of thing that I would look at if I'm somebody who's looking to draft a quarterback. If he's planning on going to the NFL, I'd be like, what is with this dude?
If you were
like
sitting
what?
across from me for an interview, I'd be like, if I
It's
read
like-
that, I'd be like, yeah, no, sorry, no.
It's like extremely immature
Yeah, petty
for
thing.
him. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like
I'm sure there are a lot of people who feel that way. You know what I mean? When they leave, I'm sure there's a lot of people who feel that way. They just have the good sense not to say anything.
Or
It is
I
what
can
it is.
even understand too if he just made like some kind of shipping out to Boston joke and then turned it into something on okay, fine, whatever, right? I don't think anything's wrong. But when you're writing this long diatribe, like it's obviously like he had to sit down and was like typing it out and probably like edited it and was thinking of all these things. And I mean, I couldn't have been more wrong on a player than I was on him, because I was convinced he was going to be a stud in college. You know, he was the
So
guy.
was I. So was I.
He had the pedigree. He was the state champion in basketball as well as football, and just this great athlete. He was the alpha guy that you were looking for, and just, you know, a runner. He had the big arm, and I mean, in hindsight, I just remember Matt and I went to go see him, you know, at the Ohio opening regional, and he looked terrible that day. And, you know, I just took it off as one bad day, but I just think that guy's not made for it.
Yeah.
He's not, the bright lights or something about it mentally with him. And I think Christian, you know, said it when we were just talking privately. There's something like mentally fragile about him, and I kind of feel bad for him, to be honest.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of like I warn people about when they watch highlight films. We don't get to see the bad plays, right? So everybody looks good on certain things, but what you can't measure is somebody's heart and their mental capacity. And more importantly, in the quarterback position, so much of it is about how do you respond, just like corner, how do you respond when something bad happens? Because there's going to be a lot of bad things happen. And the best players rebound and can handle it and you put it behind them. And clearly this is not something that he put behind him. Now, that's all that needs to be said about Phil Dracovic from now until eternity.
I hope we never have to talk about it.
We're never going to have that. We're just never going to talk about it again. And it just is what it is. So I'm glad that drama is over, and now we can move on to USC. I do think it was nice to see some of the seniors have some nice things happen for them. It was nice to see the O-line kind of bounce back and do some things this week that we didn't see as much as we'd like last week. There was just a lot of good things about this game. And it was funny because I was kind of joking to my wife about all you know, I guess all day saying, I'm glad I'm not in South Bend tailgating and dealing with this, but I bet that second half was pretty fun as a fan in the stands, you know, even though you're probably freezing. I bet that was a lot of fun. And I'm sure those people it was crazy because, you know, unlike Texas A&M, nobody was leaving. Yeah,
I know.
The stands were still pretty full, even though it was pretty miserable out there. So it was nice to see for the seniors. And I thought Marcus Freeman, leading into this, handled it extremely well by saying, hey, thank you for believing in me, right? Because that's really the case. They wouldn't be where they're at today with this record if they didn't believe in Marcus Freeman. And believe in him to start the season, and then believe in him when things went bad. And I think that as a head coach, you win a lot of points with your team when you say things like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And I mean, what he was saying about Patterson earlier in the week and like how he's basically been playing hurt the whole year. And I think if, you know, truth be told, at the beginning of the season, like we were kind of shocked that he was even trying to give it a go in that first Ohio State game. Right. And that he played the next week after, because I mean, it was not an injury that, like it's like a pain tolerance and like a very painful injury. So it's something that, you know, you could see a lot of guys play through, but when it's like, you know, when things are good and you're like trying to play for a championship, but he could have easily been like, I'm not good this week or whatever. But I mean, that guy played hard throughout the whole season and was one of the reasons too, like that, you know, you're playing Clemson and you go there and kind of smack them in the mouth. And that's a big part of it. And you know what, I just think, I think for a guy like him to kind of show that and like be all in, I think that's super important. I think when you see like, you know, and I mentioned this when we were doing our preview show with Greg earlier in the week, and we were talking about Josh Lugg, and like, Mike, you know, Josh Lugg's a guy who has been a scapegoat at times, and sometimes, you know, deservedly so, for he hasn't played that well or whatever. Right. But you know what? There's a guy who it just kept going and had a season that I don't think any of us expected that he would have. Yeah. And you know what? Really did, kind of played hard really kind of, you know, and I don't think the guy has probably an NFL future, but I mean, talk about like going out on top and being able to like,
and earn everybody's respect. Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people counted him out. You know, I think myself included, I didn't think that he would play as well as he has this year. And you got to give the guy all the credit in the world. He really has done a tremendous job. So I got to throw this one up. Where's Buckos to talk about the snow and the 8 wins? Pipe him in from the wins. Well, we know. I mean, he's probably thrilled because he got his 8 wins. Plus, they beat BC. Not only did they beat BC, they shut him out. But Buckos is part of the problem by being satisfied with 8 wins. So, anyway, Yama. Okay, so we're going into this game. Big, huge game. Not just for the season and for confidence and for confidence in the program, but I think for recruiting too. If you go out and you push USC around and you beat yet another highly ranked team, spoil their playoff chances, to me, I mean, I think that's just a huge program win and a huge confidence boost and a big recruiting win. And it has to happen. Got to happen. I don't know how. We got to figure out how to do it. Yama, what do you think?
I think so too. It's same with the Clemson game, right? It was just that important to win that game for recruiting purposes, to kind of keep the class together and keep everyone together, and that part of it. Now this is for even more so for the kind of like I don't even know what to call it, but just to have that cred with the credibility with all of the people out there, these young recruits that you're going to go head to head with for USC. And that's the one thing with, like, you could say with, like, especially Brian Kelly and those years, they never really went head to head and beat USC for people. Maybe they won 1 out of like 10 or something, you know what I mean? But it was a very low percentage. So even though they were beating their butts on the field, it didn't matter. They weren't getting some of these guys that they were going after. And I think, and I think after a while they kind of gave up. They didn't really like pursue a lot of those guys because they were like, we're not going to get this big time West Coast guy. We're not going to they don't even care about it anymore. And I think obviously you see with Freeman and their staff, they don't care. They're going to go after those guys. And this is kind of what you have to do, is you have to like go out there in your first year and stomp USC and just say, like, listen, this is the team this was all the hype. Therefore, we're the substance. Yeah. We're the substance. This is where you want to be.
Yeah. If you want to play tough football and you want to have a chance to win in a national championship, this is how you can do it. Or you can stand out there and throw the football around and stuff, but then get absolutely tattooed by anybody who's got a pulse, So that's what has to happen. I don't know how you do it. It's going to be a difficult game. There's no question about it. But I like the way Notre Dame is made up mentally in this game. I like the ability to run the football. I like the fact that Drew Pine looked better in this game. I do think SC, they have the one great pass rusher, and that guy's they're going to have to do something about him. And surprisingly, USC's offensive line has played well. Now, again, Pac-12 defenses, I don't think there's a lot of great defenses out there in the Pac-12, and I don't think there's a lot of great pass rushers.
Not a lot of great D-lines.
No, certainly not. But but Caleb Williams, this kid's he is a dynamic player. And these are the types of players who have given Notre Dame fits in the past, these mobile quarterbacks who can run and do things. So Notre Dame's going to have to play disciplined with this. By the way, I like seeing Jordan Botelho get in there and do some things today. That was nice. Oh, yeah. And he was effective. And every time they put him in the damn game, he's effective, Yama. They need to play him more. But Justin Adamalola is playing well, so it's hard to get him off the field. It just is. So
I'll tell you what, though. One of the things, though, in the second half of this year, I think that was something that they were desperate to have a guy like Botelho show something. Yeah. And I think he's shown it. Yeah. I think
he played good defense and also played good containment today, which is not usually his strong suit, but did a really good job.
Disciplined, like he hasn't taken a stupid penalty or anything like that. Like hasn't done any of these things that maybe you expect him to do. And I think now you're looking at where a guy you're like, oh, he's definitely going to be a factor next year. Where you could say probably 5 games ago, you're like, I don't know. Like you wouldn't even be able to say, like instead, now you don't have to be like, well, I really hope Josh Burnham turns out next year.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's just like almost too much to ask of a guy like Burnham. But now at the very least, you're going to have somebody who can play and like do some things. And like, I've really just like, I mean, he's physical. He's always been physical, but he's just like really, I think playing with more confidence and just showing a lot more.
He's a guy that should play a lot more, but again, you got Foskey and Justin Admiral-Lola's playing well, so it's hard to get him off the field. Ernsberger, I had a couple of plays in there today that was exciting. Gabe Rubio looked good in there when he had his opportunities, so that was exciting as well. The future that they got some guys that have a little bit of stuff to them that I'm excited to see what they can do, and it was so important to get Botello moving and going. And then, of course, Jalen Sneed looked good out there. Boy, I tell you, it was fun to watch some of those guys. I wish we had more opportunities to watch some of those guys, but I love the attitude, too. Give me more of that attitude. So, all right, I got a couple here comments. What's with the Canadian gear? America. I just did it for Yama, man. I'm just trying. I give him a lot of crap about being Canadian, so I did it just as a joke more than
I'll tell you what. You know what? It was a Canadian day out there in South Bend, right?
It kind of was. It kind of was.
Yeah. So I think you know what. That's why I wore this sweatshirt today. So that's
wasn't Mukam there? Wasn't Mukam there today?
He was there
yeah,
too.
So maybe that's why.
He must have felt right at home.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's an interesting comment. USC's only had 3 turnovers all year. It's about time for their luck to run out. I agree. That's crazy. Only 3 turnovers. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. That's surprising. I didn't realize that. Let's see. We got a few more comments here. I wanted to get to. Yeah, I think it was good that Minchie, saw Notre Dame dominant. I think that was important. I really think that it shows that things are turning around, and the future looks pretty good offensively. It certainly does. All right, we got a few more here. This is a question for you, Yama. Jamie, did you hit on the Estime over? Missed if he got another yard.
No, he was the over was 72.5. And I bet the over, and he got 71 yards. So whatever, you win some, lose. Hey, they won 44-0. What can I complain about?
Yama, you're betting on certain players and stats.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, I'll tell you what. I bet on the under for 240 yards passing for the BC quarterback, and that one hit.
But did you have it in some parlay, so it didn't matter, or what?
No, I actually did it separately. Some, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I see how it is. See, we got a bunch of these gambling fools here with the ISD crew. I know.
Don't get Christian on here.
I know. I know. There's no doubt about that. No doubt. Well, Yama, if anybody has any more questions, fire them up. I knew this probably wasn't going to be the longest one because there just really isn't too much to talk about. Notre Dame just flat kicked their butt. It was exciting. It was fun to watch. Congratulations to all the seniors. Congratulations to Marcus Freeman on turning things around at home. They've played well on the road most of the year. Was not playing well for a while, and now things looking pretty darn good on at home now. So that was important as well. I don't know, man. I really wish. I just wish Notre Dame had just a little more consistency at quarterback heading into this game, Jimmy. If they did, I think Notre Dame could really lay a number on USC if they had that consistency. But that's the problem. We just don't know what we're going to get with Drew Pine. And to me, that's the only concern I have going into this game. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's a concern really for every big game, really, right? It's just that if Notre Dame is in a position where they're forced to make plays, especially on third down, right? It's third and medium, it's third and long, and you got to throw the football. Can they do it? And so that's the big concern in this game going into USC. At the same time, USC's run defense hasn't been good. So I think you're going to look at like
their pass defense hasn't been good either. I mean, they gave up 300
No,
yards the last 2 weeks, so
yeah.
300 yards passing.
So I mean, I think from that perspective, like I would be shocked if Notre Dame doesn't score over 30 on them, like probably like 35 again, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the big thing is just can you just like the field goals, holding them to field goals, not giving up the big plays, not giving up the explosive plays, and getting Caleb Williams on the ground. He's so hard to get down. So
yeah, that's the key. I'll hit this question real quick. He wants to know if there's any info on Minchie's visit and how it's going. We're really too early for that. They really don't do much until they usually just kind of show up and so tonight is really kind of the night where they get to spend a lot of time with the coaches. They get to spend time with the players, all that type of thing. So and then tomorrow they'll have meetings and stuff like that. So we won't really know much about that until tomorrow and see how that goes. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how well he clicks with Tommy Rees, whether he believes that Rees believes in him, whether he feels like he can fit into this offense and be an effective player. The depth chart has to be attractive to him, and it'll be interesting. I've heard he plans to enroll early. Is that correct, Jamie?
Yeah, he was going to enroll early at Pitt, so I assume like that's probably a big part of the visit to make sure that he can get in and all that.
So if he enrolls early, he'll have the chance to compete with everybody that's going to be here, and that's going to be an interesting situation because we fully expect a transfer quarterback to come in, and then you have Buckner who will be healthy again, Pine, Angeli, and then Minchie as well. So it'll be an interesting battle. It would not surprise me if some guys bounce at some point, but they may want to wait and see what happens in the spring. That's going to be an interesting thing to see. If all those guys stick around, how do you get the reps for these guys? We'll see what it is. So hang on, we'll get another question here. Mike, how good do you feel about ND and getting a top quarterback in the portal? I just don't see Pine, Buckner, or Angeli getting ND to a championship level. I feel good about it. I really think, and we've heard that Notre Dame has had a lot of communication with various guys, and that things have been very, very positive in those conversations. Now, will that happen? Will they end up getting their top guy? I don't know. We'll see. But I have a feeling Notre Dame's going to end up with a guy, certainly. Will he be their top guy? I don't know, because there's going to be a lot of other teams that are out there pushing for this. And then you have to figure the NIL situation is going to come into play, probably for the top guy that's around there. Some teams are going to say, hey, look, I realize you want to go to Notre Dame, or I realize you want to go to this school, but we're going to offer you $1 million to come here, just like we saw with Jordan Addison last year, and why he's out at USC. So allegedly, that's something that Notre Dame's going to have to battle. But I think that they can go and say, look, we took Jack Cohn. Look what we did with him. Things worked out really well with him. He got drafted. We can do this. We've shown that we can do this. You're going to have two of the best tackles in the entire country protecting you, and they will. I mean, I can't imagine any school will have better offensive tackles than Notre Dame will have next year. I really can't. I think you got 2 first-round picks for sure, and maybe top 15 picks for both of them. I would be surprised if they weren't. So, all right, we're going to get another question here. Mike or Jamie, if either of you could pick one legitimate option at quarterback in the portal, who would it be? What do you think, Jamie?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know.
Depends on who's going to be available.
It depends who's going to be available, right? Like, because there's probably like some group of 5 guys that, like, if say like Grayson McCall wanted, the Coastal Carolina kid, if he wanted to come, I'd be like, take that guy in a second.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if he would be available though. So, I mean,
I gotta believe he is. He's going to want to show that he can compete. Now, whether he'll be available to Notre Dame is another story.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, you hear a lot of guys about
Card and
Hudson Card, Devin Leary, And honestly, I'd be lying if I said I watched enough of those guys to be like, oh, definitely Card or definitely Leary, right? Like, especially because the one thing with NC State is usually with the ACC guys, I've seen them a couple times because whatever, but I haven't seen as much of Leary because they weren't on Notre Dame's schedule the last few years, so haven't really seen him much. So
I've watched him a couple times. He's a good player. I didn't necessarily have a great year this year, but neither did the team. So I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But
I think McCall's a 6 as an extra year, so that's why. So Matthew Patterson asked about that, so that's why I mentioned his name.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to shut down. I got to grill me some steak. I'm going to have some steak tonight, Yama. That's what I'm doing, my man.
That sounds damn good to me.
Yeah, I haven't had steak in a while, so and there's no snow here, so thank God. Yeah. So hasn't been snow all year. I'm pretty happy about that. So, all right, folks. Well, I think that's going to be it for the show. I appreciate everybody watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Be looking for a lot of content next week. We're going to have Hit and Hustle. We got all kinds of stuff. If you're not a member of Irish Sports Daily, great time to sign up. Go to the front page, click on the subscribe button or the premium section. You can also subscribe here on YouTube. Click on the subscribe button down there and the bell, and that'll allow you to know every time we're running live on a show, and it'll also put our shows in your feed as well. So anyway, thanks for listening and watching, and we will talk to you next week, hopefully after a big USC win. What do you think, Yama? You think they're going to win?
I think Notre Dame's going to win.
I think they got a real good chance. I really do.
I think they got a
gonna have
really
to run
good
the ball.
chance.
Gonna have to run the ball.
And when Notre Dame is the tougher team,
I always like their chances.
They tend to beat USC, and I think they're the tougher team.
I think so too. And I think they got the better lines at this point. So hopefully Jason's fully ready to go. They're going to need him, and I sure hope Cam Hart's okay, man. That would be bad.
That's big.
That would be bad. I hope Cam Hart is going to be fine, and I would like to get Brandon Joseph back too as well. So, all right, folks, thanks for listening. We will talk with you next week.